So the first up we've got is our technology update, and it's a triple header. Started off with Richard, going to talk about technology investments and significant projects. Oops. Thanks.
Great, thank you very much. Morning to everybody. It feels like everyone's sitting so far away today. I don't know, they're scared to come up the front or just hung over from last night's social. I'm going to, as Jeremy says, I'm going to go through projects and updates, and then rather than me go on for half an hour, Anne's going to come up and talk through our service operations and maintenance updates, and Mo's going to give us an update from the last LINX event on root servers. There's a lot happening on the root servers at LINX over the next 6 months. So, as always, any questions as we go through, or you will have time for questions at the end. But okay. So technology investments, it's been a while actually since I spoke through what we're doing on the London network. So we seem to, when we've spoken about investments over the last few LINX meetings, it's been more around other areas, whether that's the portal self-service and tooling side of things. But London One and our investments are just as important. I'm going to go through a few today on what we're doing with London One and just recap a little bit on what we've done over the last 6 months. And then I'm just going to do a quick update on the projects I mentioned at the last LINX meeting, which are over in Africa and the partnership with STC. So under the LAN interconnection development, London One, we've got, well, we 2021, November 2021, just to recap, we invested in 400 gig technology on the Nokia platform and introduced that into a number of sites. Since then, we started to look at the overall footprint and what we can do. And I think you might have picked up at the last couple of LINX events, we spoke about the LD6 redesign, which is the Equinix Slough redesign. And that's part of the bigger footprint about what we want to try and reduce our number of devices and certainly the number of legacy devices. And the main reason for this is obviously cost savings. So I'm sure many of you have seen the same problems that LINX have, where data center prices, power prices, co-location prices have increased over the last couple of years. And whilst we do hope that will swing back the other way, I don't think with many of these things they go up quickly and then they tend to trickle down. And so we're not expecting the prices for what LINX pays for power to return to what we had before, but certainly to reduce. But that really puts into question our footprint and where we put devices into data centers, which data centers, and what we measure on and what we try and drive for is how much capacity can we provide to the membership, and what's the cost of providing that capacity to the membership. And that's key performance indicators that the team work around, so that we can make sure that we're doing the right thing for the membership. So on London One, this is a quick overview of the network. I don't expect you to memorize it, or the slides are here, but it's just to illustrate the challenge that we've got. And I'm going to drill into a few different areas as I talk through this. So just to show you, this is the overall high-level network spreading from the Telehouse campuses at the top there. You've got TCH, which is now the Equinix. I think it's LD8 in what was Telecity Harbour Exchange. And the interaction site down in this bottom corner, which is now Digital Realty. What have we done? Well, Mark presented on this, and we've given a couple of updates. So recently we completed the LD6 redesign. So we actually had 3 edge devices in here. We installed a Nokia 7750, which gave us the ability to run 400 gig. And we collapsed 2 of the old 960s, so the Juniper MX 960s. So the problem with the MX 960s, I mean, they're a great piece of kit, very versatile, but the space and power and density, they don't provide what we need going forward. So this was a good opportunity for us to add 400 gig and also to consolidate down into a better footprint. So we've got the 2 devices now, one running 100 and 400, and the other running the lower density connections. So that was the Equinix site, but as you look around, you'll see there's quite a lot of those light blue edges, and that's a similar situation. So we started to think, well, look, what we should really be doing is are there other areas that we can consolidate the MX 960s, reduce the footprint, reduce the cost, and improve the density. So The next area we're going to be looking at is interaction. So over in interaction, we haven't installed a Nokia SR7 yet. We're looking to install, so one of those devices there is an Juniper MX10K, and we're looking to install the LC9600 card, which is the new card that Juniper brought out, which will run at 400 gigs. So the idea being that this site will remain a Juniper site for 400 gig and give us that flexibility around vendor. But it does then say, well, what about that Edge 1? You know, do we need to keep that 960? We're adding another card into the MX10K. So we're also going to be testing out the LC4800, which is a 110 gig interface card, which slots into the 10K, and that would then give us the opportunity to reduce the footprint and get rid of that MX960 in Interaction, or the Digital Realty London 2 site. So what does that mean then? We're going to then, after we do that site, so we've done Equinix Slough in the middle there, we're going to be doing Interaction down in this bottom corner, and then we're now doing a cost analysis around what we will do with the rest of the MX 960s over time. And so Mark and the engineering team are working through the technicalities. We'll be looking at the cost model. I think, as Curtis mentioned yesterday, there'll be a business review and look at what we do with the cost benefits back to the organisation. But essentially what we're going to focus on are two products. So one is the Nokia satellite product. So this is effectively, it's an extension of a line card from the SR7 that we installed, and it gives us a resilient fibre extension to aggregate 1 and 10 gigs. And we're, as I say, we're doing a proof of concept at the moment, but we think that LC4800 card from the Juniper family will plug into the 10K, and that will also give us the ability. So from both Nokia and Juniper, we'll do that proof of concept, we'll do the cost analysis, and then we'll start a program of activity to get rid of the 960s from the network. And it's not that you know they're causing us problems, but it's more about the space, the power, and the ongoing support costs that we pay year in year for those type of devices. These newer boxes, the higher density, they're more effective, both on power but also on support costs. So quite a bit of investment in London 1, and I wanted to pull that together because we do these odd little projects here and there, and given the presentations and the talk that we had yesterday about how we build this into our direction of travel and strategy, I thought it was nice for us to just appreciate it isn't just these odd projects. We build them into the bigger picture around what we want to do in returning value back to the membership. So on other projects, quick update before I hand over to Anne on the service side. So I mentioned all of these projects last time at LINX, so I wanted to give an update. Unfortunately, some of them have slipped a little bit, but I'll go through exactly what that means. From Nova's point of view, we've been running for a while this 4-site set up with a transmission link into Nova, and you may have seen. I think there was a social media press update on the partnership with Equinix, so we now represent it in this format with the 5 sites, and that's given us an idea about maybe doing a refresh with the technology footprint to also optimize this. So this is going through. Last time I spoke, Mark and the team were doing the design. The design has been done. It's now been submitted to the portfolio board for review. It will go to the board, as Curtis explained yesterday, and there'll be a gating process to sign that off. But hopefully that will go through, and then we'll be able to give you an update on what exactly we're going to be doing from a technology point of view on Nova. But really pleased to see the Equinix site now come into the equation, and so we'll be operating out of the 5 sites in Nova. On Nairobi, we have, I'm not quite sure why that arrow's there, but you'll see in a minute why it's there. We did the design, that was completed. We were going to do the build in March. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. The site that we were hoping to get handed over had a part missing from the infrastructure in the ceiling. It meant more drilling work was to be done. We didn't want to install the kit with drilling work, as you could appreciate, get dust into the fans and onto the circuit boards and the devices. it obviously causes problems. So we're now looking at a build late May. The reason for this is that we're hopeful literally this week the drilling and the building work will complete. We have validated the kit is out there, it's been powered up, it's been stored in a clean and safe environment, so there isn't anything other than physically going and installing it now, so we know the kit's good. There will be a launch event, and I'm sure you'll hear from the likes of Lindsay and Jen on that, but we'll have a launch event with LINX Africa at the end of May as well. And then the other project that I spoke about was Jeddah and Daman, Riyadh and Daman. We were hoping to build towards the end of this quarter. The design has been done, the kit is being shipped. We have the new data center address, but what that will mean is the build is going to move slightly into Q3, and that has a knock-on effect, obviously from a resourcing and timing point of view. Daman will then follow Q3 with the design, and probably the build will be Q4, maybe even Q1 next year. But hopefully we'll see Riyadh progressing in the next quarter with us. And finally, just to show you, this is our internal database of switches that we run. It's the engineering UI that the engineering use, but just to show you, we've got the pointer works here, but we've got the new London 2, which is the edge core box, the 7946, which is installed at Equinix, and that provides 400 gig connectivity. So that's been proved out, tested and released. So if you have London 2, any 400 gig needs, we can now support that. That is the same box that would be deployed in Manchester as well, or in other sites that's supported on the Edge Core platform. So if you need 400 gig in any of those sites, we can also support that. And that, I believe, is it from me. I'm going to hand over to Anne, but just before I do that, is there any questions on projects before I hand over them to the operational side? Okay, well, if you think of anything before the end, you can come back, and I'll hand over to Anne. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Hey, good morning, everyone. I'll be going over the service issues and the maintenances as usual. Okay, the first service issue since the last LINX meeting was when the bird daemon for IPv4 on the LINX119 collector crashed after returning an error on Alice. It was restored when it was restarted. The second issue was when there was a loss of connectivity to Virtuous VPOP, which affected all members from LUN1 and LUN2. It affected all 5 of the members, and the root cause was an issue with the data center cross-connect outside our site connecting the dark fiber. Since it's a transmission POP, it did contribute to an outage for the full site. And the restoration came when telehouse engineers working on the cross-connect alongside with EU networks on their optical equipment at the same time. So they're both saying they fixed it, but it was on both sides at the same time. The next issue was triggered by an emergency maintenance of FPC6 on Core 3 TCH. It went offline, and we were advised by the vendor to replace the card as errors were incrementing, indicating a failure. And once that maintenance happened, another card, FPC7 on the same switch, started logging errors and silently dropping traffic. It was believed that the FPC7 and the corresponding fabric may have been disturbed while the FPC6 was replaced, causing the errors and the subsequent drops. This affected a significant number of member peering sessions with RS1, RS3, the root collector, and direct peering with the traffic transiting FPC7 or having their parts directly connected. After it was identified that the issue was related to the FPC7 reporting fabric trip errors on multiple planes, the card was rebooted to resolve the issue. It was caused by a bug described as when CRC errors are observed on the fabric plane, traffic utilizing that plane may continue to discard traffic until the FPC or impacted traffic plane is restarted. Mo was asked at the social about the PR, and we did check, and the Juniper PR is public, and it's PR 1724007. It was too late to add it to my slides, but we do have that if anybody wants that number. Juniper 1 were unable to recreate the issue in the lab by pulling an adjacent card. they were only able to recreate it by injecting CRC errors. So the chances of the reoccurrence is really low. The bug is due to be fixed in 21.4R3S4 onwards. We're currently on 21.4R1.S3, and it will be available when we do our upgrades later in the year. We do have a workaround for if issue reoccurs of offlining and onlining the impacted fabric plane to restore traffic, rather than requiring a complete FPC reboot. We're sorry that the issue took longer to resolve than it should have, and our member communication was lacking in this instance. We lost time by troubleshooting the FPC card, and it was thought that that was the issue since it occurred during a maintenance window. And as it was a Sunday and NOC cover was low because there was holiday being taken, the on-call network engineer found it difficult to complete the physical work, along with troubleshooting the issue and dealing with communications and keeping eye on monitoring. We have looked into that, and we've taken a couple actions to reinforce improving that. And so we reinforce network engineers and NOC engineers to escalate whenever assistance is needed. Sometimes people don't want to bother people if they're not working, but it's really important, and we always try to say, please let us know. That usually means calling me or Mo. So yeah, any engineers, just remember to always call us. And also continue to upskill our NOC engineers. So that's been something that we've been working on. They took on some of our first line alarms, and we're working on improving their skills. There was one member service affecting issue at the beginning of this month. An FPC card rebooted, causing member sessions to drop for a few minutes. And the card came back online, and it restored, but we raised the issue of the vendor TAC to investigate, and they had us do another emergency maintenance window to fix that. But after the maintenance was completed, some members reported that the traffic still hadn't returned. And it looks like we encountered an issue with BCP 214, where the network engineer who was completing the maintenance, she was unable to remove it properly. And she escalated the issue to a senior network engineer who implemented a workaround of rolling back the configuration before BCP 214 was enabled to restore service to the members who had it enabled. The issue was escalated with our software team to fix the bug that caused the issue, and it was the CRM call broke the data in the database, and this was fixed by changing the vanilla API endpoint to write BCP 214 directly. Hopefully it shouldn't happen again. We have a couple of member affecting maintenances. The one is root server replacement, RS1 car one, a replacement. I think it'll be tonight, tomorrow morning. And then next week we have the Scotland network refresh member moves, and that will complete the network refresh of LINX Scotland. And so next it's Mo. Did you have any questions for me before I hand over to Mo? Oh, okay. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Mo Shivji. I'm from the engineering team at LINX. I'm here to give you the root server update. So I'll go through where we are currently at with OpenBGPD, what our plans are for Bird 1.6 and Bird 2, what we're doing with extended commutes on the root server, and where we are with our root server stats. So with OpenBGPD, we're currently, we deployed in LINX Wales and Scotland last year, as you know, and we decided to extend that deployment to Manchester, Nova, and London. The deployments were successful. We did have some hiccups on the first one, but the main thing that we had on all three was there was an impact on the looking glass, and that was caused by some members announcing a particular type of extended community and the way it was particularly formatted. The looking glass wouldn't really pass it and decided to bow out and crash. I could replicate that in the lab, but the developer of Alice couldn't replicate it in her own setup. So the quickest workaround at the time was really to speak to those members, work with them and ask them to remove the extended community from any announcements they made to the root server, which they did without any hesitation and complaint. So a big thanks to those members. For OpenBGP, one of our goals is to get an OpenBGP root server working on LAN 1. And we continue to do that by working with the root server software foundation who develop OpenBGPD. We work with them on it. We meet up regularly with them, discuss any improvements, performances, and any new features and any bugs. So that also continues the project. For Bird 1.6, we have been using various releases of Bird since 2010 very successfully. Currently, we are running Bird 1.6.3, 1.6.8 around our exchanges. I'm not sure whether it's unfortunately, but the developers have announced the end of life of Bird 1.6. And the end of life date of that is the 31st of December of this year. So that really makes us now having to push towards Bird 2. We're going to use that end of life date as a deadline to deploy Bird 2. And we've actually started work on this quarter. Initially a bit later than anticipated, but we had some work that had more priority before. So we've actually started adding that into our automation system. We are going to deploy before the end of the year, using obviously that end of life date as a deadline. And we'll upgrade our collectors to Bird 2 as well, which they currently run Bird 1.6. There's been a few alpha releases of Bird 3. We've not yet investigated that or researched it, but we will do perhaps in the coming months or somewhere down the line. One good thing about, I've been told by one of the developers, is that we should be able to use our Bird 2 configuration with Bird 3, which make hopefully automation work for that quite a minimal. Extended communities. I did mention a few meetings ago that we were looking at removing these from the root server, which would affect members that use that for things like policy control and NAS prepending. So we will continue with that. Back in March, Alex and I, we attended a root server workshop hosted by UIX and Topics, where we discussed these extended communities on root servers. And it seems that other IXPs are also following the same path by either not supporting it anymore or planning to remove it. So as I said, we'll continue to do that. And it's also going to be followed up by an RSC that will explain why extended communities shouldn't be used on root servers. And that's been drafted by our good friend Job Snyders. We will contact members. We have actually contacted members already that use extended communities on the root servers. Unfortunately, none of them have replied back to us. So we'll do a second round of trying to contact them, make them aware that we are going to plan that in. It may be an idea also to plan that work in with deploying Bird 2. So perhaps give a longer time for the members to migrate to something like large communities, which we kind of recommend already. Root server stats. So currently our root server stats are still using RRD tool and some SNMP custom-made scripts with some Perl code inside it. And these scripts have become unmaintainable. So we are planning to rewrite these in Python. We have rewritten them in Python, and they will be deployed by the end of the month. But going down the line, our future plans are that we want obviously to use some like Prometheus endpoints and Grafana to show these stats for our root servers. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mo. Any questions from the audience there before we move on to our next session? No? Well, thank you very much indeed, Mo.